topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Connected Table Live. We're your hosts, Melanie Young and David Ransom, your insatiably curious culinary couple. We travel the world and our home city to introduce you to the amazing people we meet and places we visit, the foods we try, the wines we drink, and many other incredible culinary discoveries, which we love sharing with you to encourage you to eat, drink, explore, and be inspired to step outside your comfort zone and try new things. We are going to take you to two places today. The first is New Orleans, which is our home. And the second is Pearlington, Mississippi, which you can see behind us, except for that little area there. Pearlington, Mississippi. We are going to introduce you to probably one of the most unique restaurants in New Orleans. Totally unique for many reasons. The name is Suis Generis. We're going to be talking to the owner and founder and executive chef, Ernest Foundas. It is located just in the Bywater, which is a charming area, kind of on the cusp of the Marinade. And it's open just 3 nights a week because it has a weekly changing menu with many ingredients sourced in its own farm called Tiki Farm in Pearlington, Mississippi, which is about a 45-minute drive from New Orleans. We had the chance recently to go to the farm and participate in one of Tiki Farm's food labs. We learned how to make miso. There's one coming up on making fermented beverages. They're seasonal, and you take a farm tour, you take a class with Ernie, and he makes really an incredible meal that I said to David was as good as any Michelin-rated restaurant. So we're going to talk about, we're going to introduce you to Ernie Foundas, but also talk about his very important philosophy of zero waste cooking, which is the foundation of what Suis Generis is all about. So Ernest Foundas, welcome to the Connected Table.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We are so happy to have you. You know, I think we have a little video real quick, short. Do we have that one? And if not, we can show it at the end. Maybe we'll show it at the end to get everybody excited. So Ernie, let's start with you, because you've got a really interesting background. You didn't really go to culinary school and do the traditional route. You are a lawyer. Talk to us about who is Ernest Foundas.
So Ernest Foundas is an attorney. Ernest Foundas is a chef. Dual persona. I grew up around restaurants. One of my grandfathers, who I was named after, ironically, owned a restaurant in Boston. And some of my earliest memories were him taking me to the restaurant when he was doing his prep at 3 a.m. To make the soups and the different things that he served at his restaurant. And I was fascinated about that. Then I also remember growing up, going to Commander's Palace. We grew up around Commander's Palace. And when I was in a high chair at Commander's Palace, I was fascinated by the crummer. I'm actually writing a cookbook that I've been writing for quite a while. And the first chapter is called The Crummer, because it's essentially what captivated my attention as a little baby and got me into the restaurant business.
Crummer?
Crummer. Yeah, it's that little device that's like a little convex, like almost like a pen, but it's a piece of metal, and you use it to push down on the table to collect crumbs.
I may have one, Melanie. I can show it to you.
Well, I know what it is. I'm just fascinated. You know, David has one, and he's big on crumbing tables. That's why I think we talked about this when we were at Suis Generis. Why that? Just curious. Crummer of all things.
We say that again?
Was it crummer because it collected particles and there was zero waste?
I thought that, no, at that point I was too young to know of zero waste, but I think it was just the fascination of how it would just grab all the little crumbs so easily off the table. It's because there's the pad under the table that helps it to grab it. I just was fascinated.
Yeah.
You know, the service industry is either in your blood or it's not. So it was obviously in my blood from my family and my just young observational skills.
So you're still a lawyer by profession, but when did you open Suis Generis? And tell us about your vision for this very special restaurant.
Yeah, so we've been open for 14 years with a changing menu every Friday during that whole time. Back when I was in Boston, I was working at various restaurants, including Jasper's, which is a really great restaurant. Was a great restaurant in Boston. Unfortunately, Jasper White recently passed away. But I was working on sauté at Jasper's, and I had this idea to have a restaurant with a changing menu. And this was, I don't know, 1992. So that was pretty much early on the idea of having a changing menu restaurant with zero waste. And so Jasper told me, I also told him that I was thinking of maybe going to graduate school, maybe law school, culinary school. I hadn't gone to culinary school, and open my own restaurant. And Jasper told me, if you want to have kind of a crazy concept restaurant, don't go to culinary school. You already know how to cook. Go to get some graduate degree, go to law school or something like that. And then you can actually make money, unlike working on the line, because it's difficult to make money on the line. And then eventually you can be your own investor and be a catering chef in the meantime to keep your skills sharp. So that's basically what I did. I applied to law school, went to law school, practiced as a lawyer, continued working in kitchens, doing mostly catering work because I could set my schedule that way. And then I worked for several restaurants, like businesses in Philly that it was a temp service. So it allowed you to be staffed out either front of house or back of house to different restaurants. So I would literally jump in and work the line at different restaurants. And I was like, it's amazing to cook different things every week. So it even further cemented my idea to have a changing menu restaurant. But the zero waste thing came around really a little bit later once we started doing the ever-changing menu, because it opened the door to the concept of eliminating waste. Because, we buy small amounts of things. Then we started, freezing little bits and pieces of sauces or soup. A soup can turn into a sauce. And then we started pickling and then getting into fermentation. And then, we've really gotten extremely advanced in all areas of fermentation over the last 14 years.
Well, I think what's interesting is that the restaurant's only open 3 nights a week. You post your menus on Friday morning. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It changes, which really supports the zero waste ethos. Your beverages are also your cocktail program, which Adrian Bell oversees, is terrific. Cocktails and alcohol free, also employs zero waste and utilizes ingredients from your Tiki Farm. So it's for anyone who is coming to New Orleans, you check the website, suigeneris.com, and you'll find out what the menu is for the week. And of course, make a reservation because it's a small restaurant filled with really interesting things. Before we go to Tiki Farm, I just want to talk about the interior and ambiance at Tiki Farm, because it's filled with a lot of art, which we assume is from local neighborhood artists. And you have a music program. So talk to us about the art and music program.
Yeah, part of the concept of the restaurant is that it's a community. Where Bywater is a great artist and chef community. So every month we have a different local artist who graces our walls. We do an art opening every second Saturday, which is when Bywater has the art openings. And the atmosphere is whimsical, casual. We like to have, as you said, Michelin quality food, but in a very casual environment because it suits the neighborhood. And it's kind of fun to serve great food in just a casual environment. Then we're open late also. We're open until 11 p.m. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's sort of a codification of all of that. And also, like in New Orleans, music and food have lived side by side for years, but they don't often cross. Like if you think of the great New Orleans restaurants historically, they don't really have great music, except for, Commander's Palace has jazz brunch maybe. But in general, they don't really cross. So we have always had an interest in also cultivating local musical acts. So about 10 years ago, Carlos Grasso, who is a pretty well-known music executive, he worked with IRS Records way back in the day. And so he came in and started DJing brunches, and he called it Monsters Eating Brunch, something like that. It was an electronic set that he would do at brunch. And over time, he started coming out to the farm. We started recording sound bits of different really interesting sounds, whether it's frogs or crickets or the pile drivers making the food lab, the alligator grumbling. And he created a whole soundscape and then got a band together, and we formed a music label called Suis Generis Music and released an album called Welcome to the Tiki Farm, and the band is Pink Teddy Bear.
It's really cool. I mean, music is an integral part of New Orleans. This one is unique because you've got literally somebody spinning records, and there's a lot of whimsy in the ceiling. The ceiling is like
Red
Go cups. It's made of Go cups. But when you go in, you just look, you're like this, like a kid in a candy store. This is a good segue to Tiki Farm. A couple of things. We're going to show the video of the Tiki Farm Lab toward the end when we conclude. That's the cue to one. So we can keep the conversation going. It's a very cool place, and we want everybody to see it. The Tiki Farm is where it is your kind of your heart and soul to the philosophy of kosho, which is respect for the ingredients. So as we segue into Tiki Farm, there's three things I want to ask. What does Suis Generis mean? Is kosho, and why Tiki Farm? And David's wearing Tiki for the honors.
Yes, I appreciate that. So Suis Generis means from nothing or one of a kind.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the nickname that Huey Long had for himself, which I think is also interesting, a bit of Louisiana history. Yeah. And it's a legal term too, because it means case of first impression in the legal side. So like if there's the court evaluates a question that hasn't been answered, that's Suis Generis. And we like to say that we have questions that haven't been answered every week on our menu. So we try to answer those all the time.
Well, we've been there. We've been there
2 times.
2 times now.
And soon a third. I want to go back.
Yeah, we do, without a doubt. And there's always music. It's a great vibe in the place. Great cocktails. Nice kind of boutique wine program as well that Adrian takes care of. Tell us about the farm, though, because one of the things that we have done from the beginning is talk about the farm. So let's talk about how the farm is incorporated into Suis Generis.
And how you came to acquire the farm, and why is it called Tiki Farm?
Yeah. So about 7 years ago, Adrian and I were on a trip to Fiji. We try to travel, especially before COVID. We tried to travel every year, and when we do that, I set up a meeting or a collaboration with a chef wherever we go. We try to go to remote, exotic places, and that way we can share ideas, go to the local farms, create a menu in their restaurant, and I can work in the kitchen for a day, even when I'm on vacation, because I kind of like that. So anyway, we're in Fiji, and we visited this farm called the Gaia Farm, and it was I think it was their first tour that we went on, and we were blown away. They had literally created a Garden of Eden of unbelievably unknown ingredients that were just waiting to be utilized in cooking. And ironically, at that time, they didn't know what they were going to do with the ingredients as far as cooking. So they were like, "Can you guys be our partners?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, I would love that," but we weren't ready to just pull out of New Orleans. So on the flight back, we just started talking and decided we should figure out some way to do a little bit of that in New Orleans or in the region. So when we got back, we started looking for property, started looking in the neighborhood. It was expensive, small properties. And we decided go a little further out and get something on the water. And you can see where you're sitting right now is the lake at the Tiki Farm. So we called it the Tiki Farm in part because we love the whole tiki aesthetic. And we came up with the idea when we were in Fiji. So it's the Tiki Farm. And when you go there, the goal is to make you feel like you're on a little South Pacific vacation without the 12-hour flight.
Well, and just to underscore, it's an easy 45-minute drive just past Slidell, Mississippi, kind of toward Bay St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And we did it. We came back for a night, but you could make a weekend of it. You actually have a flying saucer that you can stay in. I don't think I think you're working cleaning it up, but there is literally a flying saucer landed on the property that you can B&B, which is interesting. So we went to a Tiki Farm Food Lab. So you do these seasonal ones. I've got the summer one. There was Beyond Brine, Fermentation Demystified, The Sound of Flavor, Science of Umami, Garums and Fish Sauce, Secret Weapons of Flavor, Miso Making, which we went to. Upcoming is Fermented Beverages, Buggy Business, Lily with Bugs, and More Than Kimchi. So these are all focused on sustainability. And again, your philosophy of Kansha, Kansha. So talk about the philosophy of Kansha and also how you conceive these labs, and then we'll talk about the experience, because you can book them in advance. It's about 16 people in one room?
Yeah, it depends on the season. When it's not really hot, we can do up to 22 people.
Right.
So Kansha means respect for the ingredients, and it's a Japanese concept. And it basically means that every ingredient should be used to its highest purpose. So like if you take your pepper, you assess it and you decide that, you take the seeds to replant, you take the ends to create a sauce, and then the center parts that are the beautiful parts, you do julienne to focus in your dish, to showcase in your dish. And then anything else that's left over, you might ferment or turn into a stock. So, the concept of Kansha really is in every aspect of both the restaurant and the farm, because we implement, it's really the cycle of life, because we, anything that we don't use on the menu or ferment ends up going to the farm to go into the compost. And then in the compost, we create soil that goes into the beds that we grow more ingredients to bring back to the restaurant. So literally it is a cycle of life. And we also, through that process, are fermenting things at all times. So that's a slow process. It's slow food. So then that comes back to the menu down the road as well.
I want to talk about the exotic portion of what you do at the Tiki Farm, because you bill it as an exotic plant farm. You do grow things like carrots and lettuces, etc., and herbs, but there's a lot that you grow there that you literally source from all over the world, and that's what most of it is. And you have everything from a tropical greenhouse farm that grows mangoes and bananas to olive trees, which usually are for an arid environment, but this is definitely not one, but they seem to be doing well as well. But you have a lot of things from all over the place that are very unique, which is really part of the charm, I think, of eating at Suis Generis, because you get things that you never get outside of going to a place like
and
this.
discovery.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because for our first 7 years, we bought from all the local purveyors, which was great, and the local farmers. But then, we decided that we wanted to kind of push the boundary a little bit of ingredients and availability. So, and also foraging. So we use things like cattail stalks, duckweed, betony, all kinds of local things that you may not think are edible, but are. Pine needles, like early spring pine shoots are really delicious when you ferment them. You can turn them into compound oils or misos. It's really an amazing ingredient. But yeah, so our focus is to grow what we can't find anywhere else. So right now we've got things like frog finger, eggplant, really unusual gourds like bottle gourds, snake gourds, python beans. What else do we have? So many unusual things. We have fish mint, which makes a really delicious vegan fish sauce.
We smelled that. That was
tasted that
really unusual.
It does. Yeah. It's a piece of mint that tastes like
smells
fish.
like fish.
It does. And it really, so creating a perfect vegan fish sauce is one of my long-term goals. And we're pretty close to creating, I think we already have pretty much the best vegan fish sauce around, but we're always working to perfect it even further. But that's one of the good ingredients. Also jujubes, they're not just a candy, they're a real fruit, and they ferment in a really funky way.
I want to underscore this. Suis Generis is ideal for anyone who is vegan or vegetarian, but there also are meat options. I love I will always go there and order whatever the salads are on the menu, because they're beyond fresh. But like I had a beautiful scallop dinner with root vegetables, and you had a beautiful skirt steak, I think it was.
Yeah, I had the duck dish as
well.
well.
Yeah, and duck. Yeah. So, just to give, I have the menu from our miso class. So first of all, the detail, the devil is in the detail, and we watched you, the creative process, is fascinating because there's so many layers of flavor ingredients. I'm going to give 3 examples, and then we're going to discuss your creative process. So, and God help me if I butcher any names, because some of these are new to me. The first dish was like hamachi sashimi, but then you've got pickled raptor melon, celery root mizosuke, wasabi tobiko, ground cherries, crispy nori. This was a good one. Smoked watermelon hot sauce, passion fruit vinegar, walking garlic oil. I mean, it's poetic. Another example, beet sake octopus with Tiki Farm fennel and carrots, pickle fresh coriander berries, smoked Kalamata olives, garlic, and artichoke leek miso butter. I mean, this is high concept. How do you come up with these kinds of dishes? What is the process?
So the beginning of each week, Monday, is when we have our chef meeting. The main driver for each menu, and each week we create a menu for the restaurant, and then when I have an event at the farm, for the farm too, so it's 2 menus a week. The ingredients first talk to us about what we're going to do. So what we have available at the farm, what ferments we have, which are probably 100. So there's a lot to draw from. And then listings of ideas. I just constantly write lists of ideas. So my idea list today is literally 10 times longer than my idea list when we started the restaurant 14 years ago, before doing 14 years of weekly changing menus, because quite frankly, creativity in food is limitless if you open your mind to it. It's just that, we in restaurant business, we tend to get stuck on a fixed menu and just perfecting the menu, which is, it's good. That's a good concept, but it's a safe concept, but it's much more fun to push the boundaries and, utilize things that you've never worked with before and put it together. So it's a mishmash of what we have, what we want to use, things that we can access, and then a bunch of the fermented things using our zero waste model from prior menus. Like, for example, I have a beautiful scallop and herb fish sauce that we had 15 extra scallops from a menu a year ago. And then I used koji to ferment that into a really delicious and rich fish sauce. So you mentioned layering flavors. That's my main sort of objective with our cooking style, is to always think about ways to layer flavors in each and every dish. Flavors and textures really too, because the interplay between flavor and texture is really what makes a dish spectacular. So we think of, if you can cook a steak and it's good. You can add spice to a steak and it's better. You can marinate the steak with amazake, which is a marinade made from koji that literally transforms the proteins and the sugars and starches to different components and enzymes that when you cook it, the Maillard effect does crazy things to the flavors. So that's sort of how we create our flavors in our dishes. And when we do the events at the Tiki Farm, we give people classes on how to do that, because to me, it's really important to share the information so people can do these things at home.
Well, everybody was, really, you had rapt attention, even though I would probably go to Suis Generis versus trying to make my own miso. But, the fermented beverages I wish we could go to. So this is another interesting example. So Tiki Farm Field Greens. Okay, you all may think salad. Yeah, great salad source. But listen to this. And this one, you can see we did a whole shebangy with photos on the Connected Table blog. Duck prosciutto, so tender. Tiki Farm cucumber, heirloom carrots, miso cured egg yolk. Baru nuts would add to that texture, carrot top, and black tahini dressing. Talk about layers and textures in that dish. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it also sort of showcases what we do as far as zero waste. So, we had carrots on the menu, so we had carrot tops. So then we use the carrot tops to make salad dressings. We use it to make other sauces, like a pesto is really good, chimichurri out of it. And the cucumber on that is actually a gagon cucumber, which is a very unusual tropical cucumber, because we're already getting into the heat of the summer. So we look for varieties of things that can actually exist in our environment. So like the lettuces and the greens that we use on our salads, we've come up with a combination of salad greens that we can grow straight through the heat of the summer, where really most people can't. You have to import hothouse greens. Well, they're not hothouse, they're actually air-conditioned house greens from purveyors. But we're able to just grow these things outside because we have found enough greens that can live in our environment.
Yeah, it's a great concept. One of the dishes that I absolutely fell in love with the other night was the Louisiana crawfish bisque. Melanie, I couldn't stop talking about it on the way home. It was so good, and there was so much that went into it, and I think this is where miso and fermentation came into it as well, because you had the crawfish, but you actually took the shells and made a bisque and an XO sauce out of the shells, which was the soup, and that was done through fermentation, correct?
Yeah. So I actually used to make the soup, I used my XO sauce from a year ago from making a bisque as flavor in that bisque. So it's a bisque that took a year to make, if you think of it that way.
Yeah.
And then we make the bisque, and then, to make a bisque, the very nature of making a bisque is you use the shells. So like the crawfish shells, tails, heads, and you grind them up in a Vitamix and strain it out. And then, everybody throws that away. But when I make a bisque, I save the shells, and then I add koji to them. And really, everything used to make a bisque are the flavors that are used to make an XO sauce. So if you add koji to it and salt, then you can ferment it safely. And in a year or 2 years, you'll have a very complex, even more complex and delicious XO sauce to use in other recipes.
I've heard of saving shrimp shells to make bisque, and people throw out so much. I mean, food waste is $1 billion situation, multi-billion-dollar, and the restaurant industry is as bad as any. In your opinion, we thought about you as we went to the farmers market, the Crescent City Farmers Market on Sunday. We saw all those carrots with the carrot tops, and I was like, wow, if Ernie were here, he'd be buying these up and teaching us how to do it, because as home cooks, we're like, oh no, what do we do? I say make reservations at Suis Generis. But what are some of the most commonly tossed out scraps or pieces of whatever, veggies or whatever, that you find are just gems to repurpose into something else that we should all be thinking about?
So many that you can get me started for an hour on that one. But a couple of them that I think of, one thing you mentioned was Adrienne with the bar program. For example, she makes a really great chili margarita. And so she uses chili peppers to make the chili simple syrup. And then when she strains that out, she gives them to me and I dehydrate them. So it's basically sugared chili that we dehydrate, and we put that in our spice mixes. Another one is different skins from either squash or carrots or cucumbers. You can turn that into crackers. So 2 weeks ago, I did a private party that was a zero waste dinner, and I did another sort of raw fish presentation, but I made crackers out of the squash skins from the squash that I used on that menu too. So that's another example. You can also turn almost anything into miso. Our class was on miso. So if you have, like, for example, this week coming up, we're using my charred Brussels sprout miso, which is basically Brussels sprouts we had left over on a menu. So I charred them really hard on a Weber grill, then turn them into a miso, and it's really delicious. You can also turn any vegetable scraps into a kimchi, was another really interesting use of it. Then when you take your kimchi, you can dehydrate your kimchi and turn that into a spice that you put in your spice blends.
Wow. It's just myriad. For a while when we lived in the Hudson Valley, we were juicing. And we were creating pulp crackers from the pulp. And I'm telling you, they were great. And when they crumbled up, we turned them into salad toppings. And we're like, yeah, let's start a business. Pulp.
That's great.
Yeah, because there's so much to skin. So I'm a big fan of Jacques Pepin, the chef and teacher, and he's all about economy cooking because that's how he grew up. That's what you did when you were living poor in France. And I watch him with fascination because he did a chicken skin chips. I never would have thought of it. You can do all these things with scraps, and no waste cooking is good for the environment also.
Yeah, so we'll save chicken skin, and then every once in a while I'll do a chicken skin wrapped deep fried scallop, and it's ridiculously good, or duck skin.
Is that like a bacon wrapped scallop?
Basically, but so much better. You deep fry it, and you use transglutamate, which is meat glue, to affix it to the outside of the scallop. And then when you deep fry it, by the time the outside of the skin is crispy, the scallop is perfectly cooked inside. It's really amazing.
Oh, that sounds good.
That does sound delicious.
I have to want to give Adrienne a shout out. She had 2 at the Tiki Farm. I think the cocktail program is terrific, and like I said, there's alcohol-free versions. She made the Mai Tai, and it was served in a tiki glass. The other was called the Pink Teddy Bear, the name of your record label, and it was like cherry juice, and I think there was amaretto in it, and it was so different and so good.
Yes. Yeah. So one of the things we've been trying to do is utilize in the cocktail program different things that we have from the farm. Like we've got, like I mentioned, pine sprouts. Huacate is a great spice that's from Peru that's really delicious and you can't find anywhere. Yopan is a local native North American caffeinated tea that we have at the farm that is really great because you can make a non-alcoholic beverage, but it's caffeinated, so it's sort of an energy drink.
Yeah.
It's really tasty. And we're working right now to supply the restaurant with all of our own tea from our farm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we saw
Adrienne
some
does
tea
all that.
plants.
And
We
that's,
saw some tea plants.
and I think that's the only native plant in North America that does have caffeine. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. In South
Right.
America, you've got yerba mata, and up in
Mhm.
North America, we've got the yopan. And we have both of those at the farm, so it's good.
Yeah, it tells the cocktails coming up. I hope they're doing a zero waste beverage class because I think that's like so fascinating to think that way, and particularly with integration between the kitchen and the bar, so that not discarded ingredients just don't go in the garbage. They can be repurposed in other ways. I think it's so fascinating. I'd love to take a foraging class with you if you ever do a foraging program. I think that would be really fun. They used to have a guy in Central Park who would take you foraging and you like eat all the stuff in the park. I thought that was gross because it was Central Park, but I think it's great to do with you on the farm.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm talking right now to a mycologist that I'm hoping we're going to do a collaboration on the fall series. Also, I wanted to mention we're doing, we just uploaded onto the Suis Generis booking website. We're doing 3 classes at Suis Generis this summer in August and September that are, we call it the Suis G Summer Series. So it's an intro to fermentation, a miso making class, and a fermented beverages class in August and early September. So,
what about buggy business?
But we're doing that at the farm. That's coming up at the farm.
You're doing that at the farm because this is at Suis Generis. Oh, so in the city of New Orleans. That's great.
Yeah, because a lot of people who don't have cars have said they really want to come out, to do one of the cooking classes. And this also allows, New Orleans cooks and chefs to come and do it too.
Sure.
I've had a lot of chefs come out and learn at the farm, but it's a little more convenient to do it in town. So those also include a 6-course tasting dinner as well.
They're very reasonable. Like what? How much are they in the?
Those are going to be $100 each.
Yeah, very reasonable. So plus beverage tax and gratuity. So the first time I heard about Suis Generis, we were kind of looking for a place to live, and we were staying in the Bywater because we were pet sitting around town, and we saw the restaurant, and I immediately got all excited because I never heard of it, And I saw we're only open 3 days a week. Check our menu, and that got me all excited too because I was like, wow, what a concept! And then I read it was a chef's place. It was a chef. The chefs love this place, so that got me really excited. But I can see why your approach to the restaurant and food and beverage is a dream for professional chefs who are looking for, enlightened food preparation, enlightened in the sense that, as we said, your philosophy of Kanchan, using everything, being sustainable and really meaning it, repurposing, fermenting, composting. It is a dream for every professional restaurant to do that, because every professional restaurateur and chef is always taxed with the usual problems, the food costs, the sourcing, blah, 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 how to be more efficient. And it really does boil down to efficiency.
And stretch out that purchase.
Yeah, stretch out that food purchase.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, actually, my sous chef, he's called working at Suis Generis being like getting a master's degree in cooking. And that's Matt Erickson, is his quote.
Well, shout out to Matt too. I mean, it's really, really terrific. So you mentioned the class, the food labs at Suis Generis here in the Bywater in New Orleans, suigeneris.com. So if anyone coming to town or who is local can check it out. Reservations are important for that because you want to know how many people are coming because you don't want to waste that. What are some other plans that what are you hoping to do down the road? What is your vision?
So we're working on, you mentioned our UFO. We have a UFO, which is a sleeping pod. That's available for rental. We also are working on, you can see behind you, is the houseboat over at the dock.
Yeah.
Right there. And so we're working on that. When people come out, they often say that, they really like to be able to spend the night out there because it's relaxing, enjoyable, and you don't have to drive back to town.
Right.
So we're trying to sort of cultivate some sleeping spaces out there that we can add to the whole experience. We're also considering doing more grounding days. We did a grounding day earlier in the season, which is basically a day working at the farm. So people come out, they get dirty, learn about what actually the benefits are of grounding, which it's interesting. There's free electrons in the earth that when you have contact with the ground, and we're insulated from the ground because we wear rubber shoes and never touch the ground. But there's actually scientifically documented benefits of having your hands and feet on the soil because you actually transfer electrons that can mitigate inflammation in the body. And so we talk about that, and we have people help us on the farm learn how to do organic farming, and then we do a barbecue. So we want to do more things like that, maybe even a summer camp for kids, like fermentation and farming. And there's really, the sky's the limit on what we can do out there at the farm.
It's endless. Although you're a small operation, it's not like you have a huge team, so you get yourself a little practice. But I think those are great ideas, particularly getting kids involved. I think that coming up with sleeping situations there, maybe get some tiny houses or not camping, but glamping would be awesome for this area because the drive. You could also get I was telling David as we were driving back, this would be such a fun experience for either like people coming in for a meeting convention and you want to have a group experience and you just get a car or a limo or a bus to take people out, have a little vino in the car, in the bus because you don't have to drive. That's a great way. Or get a group of friends and go out as a group and have a driver. And then you can have, some bubbles of lay or spritz and come back and it's a relaxing evening.
Yeah. And actually we do private events. We've done a few small convention groups.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. We've done private dinners for 2 people. So, anybody who's interested, just let us know and we're happy to accommodate.
It's a beautiful setting and, we can't recommend it enough. In fact, before we wrap up our conversation, we just want to show you, it's a very short video just to give you a visual. One, as our wonderful engineer, and he's going to put it up. It's silent, so if you want to say anything over it, you can. But one, can you pop it up real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, that was your music and food lab, right?
Yeah, that's actually Carlos using these really powerful electromagnetic microphones, and he's creating the sound from the food that's being cooked and served. He's also got microphones on the saute pan, on the cutting boards. So literally he's creating live the music of the food that the people are eating and being
cooked.
So
cool.
That's great. I think you also said that he's also recorded like the burp of the fermentation happening and stuff that you make as well.
Yes. So we did. I speak at KojiCon, which is an international fermentation conference, and we did the first rock and roll performance of koji, which is it's basically a mold grown on rice that's the building block for sake, soy sauce, and miso. Mm-hmm. And so we had some koji and miso, and we mic'd it up at room temperature, and it was like really active. And then we mic'd up some that was in the refrigerator, and it was extremely melodic and mellow, like almost white noise. So it's interesting to see the difference of your fermented goods in the fridge when they're sleeping, and then, you know, in the ambient temperature where they're very active and growing and living.
That's so cool. Did I hear you mention he caught alligators grumbling?
Yeah. We have actually a famous alligator. His name is Motu, King of the Bayou. And he's on.
I love that.
Album.
He's also the DJ at the restaurant, if I'm not mistaken.
He is. He's the music director.
And I have to say that it's because of him that I heard my first Frank Zappa song in a restaurant environment.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's pretty cool. Wow. You know, this is such a great experience. So, you know, a lot of people may not know about you because you really are, you were under the radar, but you're more in the radar now because you're also a member of NewOrleans.com, New Orleans and Company, and you're act there and you're doing these wonderful programs. And hopefully people will be inspired by this show because we think you're a gem. And I know that what we know is every time we go to Suis Generis, we will have a different experience. So if you're looking for a restaurant where you don't want the same old, as much as we love the same old in New Orleans, sometimes you just don't want it. You want to kind of get back to the land and have an experience, but one that has dishes that are also not too kitschy and weird. You know, like sometimes they get a little too much. These are normal dishes, just using incredible ingredients and colorful composition and textural composition. Suis Generis is a great option. Again, it's only open 3 nights a week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But you have these cool labs coming up as well.
Yep. And our food is really, it's good for you too, because it's probiotic rich, because the fermented goods are really good for your belly and your microbiome. So it tastes good, and it's also good for you.
Yeah, you know, we love fermentation, and we can't wait to come back out. We're going to try to come in the fall. I can't wait to see the fall program. Again, for anyone who wants more information, it's what are the websites? I'll let you say them.
So we've got suigeneris.com and tikifoodlab.com are the 2 websites. And then there's also suigenerismusic.com. Mm-hmm. And then all the Instagram pages. We've got SG Tiki Farm is the Instagram page. And then Suis Generis NOLA is the Instagram for the restaurant.
And if you want to see what we ate when we went to the Tiki Farm Food Lab recently, please visit theconnectedtable.com or sign up for the Connected Table at Substack, because we provided all the yummy descriptions and photos of our experience, which was exceptional, really extraordinary. So, you know, thank you for a great evening. And again, get to the farm, go try some new things. People ask us all the time where to go in New Orleans. It's on our list.
At the very least, get to the restaurant.
At least get to the restaurant.
Yeah,
Ernie,
nothing unusual. It's worth it.
Yeah, Ernest Foundas, thank you for joining us on the Connected Table Live. We hope everybody listening and watching was inspired, because this is a very unique place. It's Suis Generis. It's one of a kind in New Orleans. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for everybody around the world who finds and follows and listens and watches our shows. We always want you to stay insatiably curious. Thank you.